Our topic for our first ever Canada Truth Conference is probably the most important topic we could cover, and there's a reason that we're starting here first. The series title, or the title of this first weekend, is Jesus the God-Man. And I'm going to explain in a minute our reasons for calling it that. But just a little bit of my story with this. Just to be totally honest, even up till today, I don't think I know who Jesus is enough. I mean, everything we do in Christianity, I'm sure at some point if you were to ask people what are we doing, why are we doing this, they'd say, oh, for Jesus. But to take a whole weekend to understand Jesus better, I think, is my heart and desire for this, because I even find that I can read the epistles in the New Testament and see the effects of Jesus and understand that to a greater degree than actually understanding who Jesus is. At least not to the degree that I think I should. But an example of this, or even in Scripture that I see this kind of playing out, is in Luke chapter 4. Jesus is starting to come out with his public ministry. And so he's speaking at the synagogue, and he reads this famous text from Isaiah. Anyway, after that, all the people, they love him. And they just think he's the greatest thing ever. But they love him as Joseph's son. And so even they celebrate him, they accept him for who he is, until he starts to talk about who he really is, that he's not just Joseph's son. He starts to talk about how his father is God, and how people aren't going to accept him forever, especially not in Nazareth, where he's from. And he talks about how a prophet is never accepted in his hometown. And anyway, the people turn on him. They hate him right in that instant, after loving and accepting him as Joseph's son. But as soon as he talks about his divinity, it all switches. It all changes. And I think we see that very much in our world today, where people are, they're stoked on Jesus, and they're like, yeah, I like Jesus. He's a good guy. Or even saying, yeah, I'm a Christian. But people, I think, often just view him as a good teacher, or a good man, a good role model, etc. When in fact, he is God. And I think it's when we start to get into that ground that you start to kind of separate who's really in and who's out. Anyway. So the reason we're calling it Jesus the God-Man is because he's both, that he is God, and yet he came and fully became a human. And what do both sides of that picture, or both sides of Jesus, do to our understanding? How can we better understand him, both in his divinity, his godhood, as well as in his human characteristics? And how do those merge together to change the way that we view ourselves? Because I think to understand Jesus is to understand who we are in this full picture of Christianity. So one of the interesting facts about that Luke chapter 4 thing is that Nazareth never accepted him as God and man. They only accepted him as Joseph's son. But not too far away, in a place called Capernaum, they fully accept Jesus for who he is, for both his God attributes and him as a man, and they celebrate it, and they're excited about it, and they fully accept him. And what happens because of that response is that Jesus does miraculous things, like really crazy miraculous things, like healing the sick, that goes on. But he never did anything of that, because they never fully accepted him. And oftentimes I've heard circles and people say, I think I've said this, where we desire for a move of God in our country, or we desire for a move of God in our lives, or we desire to see the glory of God. That's one phrase that I hear a lot, and I've said a lot. It's how we desire to see the glory of God come, or the glory of God fall. But what I think we often forget, or don't keep forefront or central in our minds, is is that the glory of God is meant to be found in the face of Jesus. It's there that we find all that God is. I mean, I remember falling in love with Exodus 33 when I was like 15, about God showing his back to Moses. And I remember weeping and asking the Lord for that I would see him. And what I've realized after all these years of being a Christian is that glory that I have so longed for is in the face of Jesus. And it's far greater than what Moses ever saw, because it's God fully disclosed, offering everything, fully revealing himself to us in the face of Jesus. And I desire that. So my hope is that through this weekend, as we devote ourselves to the study of Jesus and understanding all his attributes and characteristics and all the ins and outs of who he is, we'll begin to scratch the surface on who he is. Because how we see him